What is conditional rendering in React? It sounds elementary, but doing it cleanly is what separates brittle UIs from maintainable ones. Conditional rendering means choosing what a component's render output should be based on props, state, or derived data. React does not give you a special template language for this. You use ordinary JavaScript, if statements, early returns, ternary operators, logical AND, returning null, or assigning JSX to a variable before you return. The mental model is the same as everywhere in React. UI is a function of state and props. When the inputs change, the description of the UI changes, and React reconciles the new tree against the old one. For large branches or completely different screens, early return with guard clauses is usually the most readable. For a compact either-or choice, a ternary inside JSX works well. Use logical and when you only need to show something when a condition is true and there is no meaningful else branch. Here is a classic footgun, writing count logical and some element when count might be 0. React will render the 0, because 0 is a valid React child. Prefer an explicit comparison or Boolean coercion so falsy numbers do not leak into the DOM. Returning null means render nothing, the component can stay in the tree, but React creates no DOM nodes for that return. That is fundamentally different from hiding a node with CSS display none, where the node still exists, layout and effects may still run, and event listeners can remain active. For messy combinations of states, pull logic out of JSX, assign to a variable with if and else if, or use a small object or map from a finite state key to the element you want. That pattern scales better than nested ternaries. Avoid three things in interviews and in production: deeply nested ternaries directly in JSX, side effects that run as part of conditional expressions during render, and hiding instead of unmounting when you actually need teardown, because conditional rendering is how you control mounting and unmounting, which in turn drives effect cleanup. When you alternate between two different component trees for the same slot, remember keys, different key values force a remount, which is often what you want when you need to reset local state between modes. How do you phrase this in an interview? In React, conditional rendering is implemented with standard JavaScript, if, ternary, logical operators, and null, because a component is just a function that returns a description of the UI. The mental model to keep: a component is a function, and conditional rendering simply means returning a different UI description for different input data. That is all for today. If this video helped you level up your React thinking around conditional rendering and feel more confident in your next interview, hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to be able to explain React like this in an interview, check the link below. A new React deep dive drops every week. See you in the next one. Bye bye.